Let's settle down and listen to the sounds of the singers in Choristers Lounge. There's plenty of things to talk about, so sit down, so sit down, so sit down at the lounge.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Choristers Lounge. My name is Matthew Caldwell, and I'm pleased to be your host for this afternoon's session, joined again by our panelists. We have St. Lisa Eves, we have Brother Richard Hurt, we have Brother Jacob Charles Carey II, we have St. Naomi Shepherd, and we have St. Leah Crowdy Vulcans joining us again, and we're going to jump right into today's discussion, today's conversation. So kind of moving from the art of conducting into this conversation about the art of composition and the art of arranging, and just kind of, our thoughts on that. So just, so Rich, you talked about the influence of the times in which the composer lived. And then Jay just made mention of this idea of understanding or us having a disconnect between that original musical concept. And I'll just be honest with you, quite frankly, that's because I think we talked about this at our last session. Most of these compositions that are part of the Kagasak musical canon were composed 80 plus years ago. There's not a person on this panel that is close to 80 years old, right? So we didn't have the opportunity to sit down with the composer. We didn't have an opportunity to sit with Elder Crawford. We didn't have an opportunity to sit with St. Virginia Bright. We didn't have an opportunity to sit with some of those St. Elizabeth Wagner. Thank God that Evangelist Moses Farrar is still here. St. Lisa, I'm sure you sat with him, with some of his compositions. I've sat with him too. Now, the genius of Evangelist Farrar is that, and I think this will probably come into play with a lot of our composers. He may give you, this is the way I wrote it, and then maybe 5 minutes later, he may give you another concept on the same song that's still his, right? But it's just another musical thought, just because he has music just kind of flowing all through him. So sometimes you kind of have to strike a balance between the two things that you heard. But by and in large, most of the songs that are in our canon, we just didn't have the opportunity to sit with those composers. We can really get it directly straight from, excuse this expression, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, where we can just say, like, what were you thinking? So now we're just kind of left to, the recordings that we have. We're left to, really just try to, kind of have our own personal study, making it make sense to us. And that's kind of where Jay mentioned, like, the interpretation changes, right? But what I want to just kind of start with, just based on that piece, and we're so blessed that several of us on this panel, have been blessed with compositions and blessed with arrangements. Let's just kind of focus first with composition. Tell me a little bit about your process. And if you haven't been blessed with a composition just yet, I know some of us have been around composers that, had a litany, could have written their own songbook. So what's been your process? How does that how has that come out in your music? I definitely want to kind of hear your thoughts. So I'll say for me, I'll just kind of start. I don't necessarily have a specific process. And this is kind of how I know that it's something bigger than me. There is like a divine interruption that just kind of pours something into you. And before you know it, you're humming something that you've never heard before, but it sounds familiar in your spirit because it's something that's becoming divinely revealed to you. And sometimes you have to write the words down. Sometimes a melody will come to you before words come to you. And sometimes you'll have lyrics before you have a melody. And then it's a matter of kind of marrying and merging those two things. So just kind of want to go around the room here. As far as composition is concerned, what is your process? How has, have compositions been revealed to you, and how did they come out?
The only thing for me for compositions is remain open to the spirit. Just remain open. I've been in different places and in different situations where a song has just come to me. One, there's the song, I don't know if many people know it, but it's a song I composed, not It Must Be. I'm So Thankful. I was actually in church service The late Saint Sarah Floyd, a songbird. Lord, had a beautiful voice. She kept saying, "I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful." And just from that, I was inspired to write. The song came to me while I was in service. Another song, "Praise Him." I composed that, and is my tribute to Chief Rabbi Levi S. Plummer, grandfather Abraham. When he passed, we went to the tabernacle, and they said, his last words to the congregation was something to the effect of, if you must mourn with dignity, accept nothing at the expense of your human dignity.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, and then the thought came to me, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So from that, I was watching a movie, and the first few chords came to me from that. Da 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 da. I said, okay, like that. So I just went from there.
Yes,
Just went from
sir.
there.
Yes,
So
sir.
um that's all I can really say as far as me. I mean, even I don't know. It's sometimes I could be asleep and it come to me in my dream. Most of the time, I don't remember those songs.
Yes,
So I
sir.
mean, that's just a few of my experiences.
And I appreciate that, and I certainly understand that this is a very personal question, right? So we're getting into some really personal life situations and things like that. So I appreciate you all sharing. Thank you for sharing that, brother Jay, and just whatever that we're going to share moving forward. I certainly want to be mindful that a lot of times these conversations will come to you at a very personal and intimate moment between you and that divine intelligence. So I just thank you for being open to share that. Saint Lisa, anything when it comes to your compositions? One that I have always loved was it was in a still small voice that the Lord spoke to me. My Lord, come on now, come on now.
Yes, sir, Brother Matt. I actually composed my first song at 8 years old. And it was, nothing classical or wonderful, but
It was beautiful. Wait a minute. Don't do that.
I actually stood in front of the congregation and sang. I can remember it to this day. I was still in Philadelphia. I was 8 years old. Might have been 7 or 8 years old. And Rabbi Crowley Sr. he used to call me singer. Well, again, we had afternoon services.
Right.
So this was probably one Sabbath afternoon. He's like, "Singer, what you got for me today?" And so I had composed this little song, and it felt the saints, it's so wonderful. You got a song, you sing it once through, they join, join right in with you. And so the song was entitled "The Lord Is So Good to Me." Just basically being in an environment where that's what you heard the saints singing. So I composed this song, and they were singing it, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And it took a long time. Well, relatively. The next song was when I was 16, which is "The Lord Is My Light and My Salvation." And we actually presented that at a Passover, probably in 1981 or 2. The Brooklyn Choir presented it at the Passover. And so my most recent composition is "One Is Our God."
Yes.
And and that was definitely much more mature, not 7, almost 9 times 7. So that was basically from the ceremony. Of course, once we started adding that piece, "One is our God, great is our Lord, holy is his name." I'm like, we have the hero Israel, but we have several songs with Hero Israel in it, but we don't have this new piece that has been added to every ceremony. One is Our God. And then it just came, the song starts off with Hero Israel, but the main theme of the song is One is Our God. And I can basically sing the chorus in Hebrew and in English, and hopefully one day it will get out, because that was definitely the most divinely inspired composition that I've had.
Beautiful,
So that's
beautiful,
it.
beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Saint Lisa. So a couple of things that you said that just really stood out to me. Yes, as composers, I think all of us have a extremely critical approach to our own music, right? Sometimes we have this thought in the back of our mind, well, will it reach or does it meet the Kagasak standard or things like that? And my word of encouragement to all of us when it comes to that, that's not even a struggle that we should be worried. Whatever the Lord gives to us, if it's meant to be, if it's meant to get out there, it will find its place. It will find and in its own time, right? And in its own time. But the blessing of the reality is that divine intelligence, that divine spirit, whether you call it the song angel, what have you, whatever it is, it's alive and well, right? And just like Brother Jay has compositions, numerous compositions, St. Lisa has numerous compositions, that creative germ is still alive and well. And as the Lord continues to reveal, please know there is a space for it. So whatever you can do in your local tabernacle, get these songs out, get them taught. Help us to increase the musical canon that is the music of the Church of God, Saints of Christ. I'm going to pivot real quick to Brother Rich, and I'm going to ask you a question from a different angle. What can you tell me about maybe the composition process of your late father, Brother Nathaniel Hurt Jr.? What were some of your experiences with him when it came to his music?
I knew you were going to go there. I knew you were going to go there. So, my dad, he had a lot of different things going on. His brain just was on 1,000 with music all the time. Um, he got to a point where he would walk around with a voice recorder. He'd be in the kitchen cooking and he would pull out and start singing. I have the recorder with songs that ideas that he's put on tape. And I'm listening to him like, where's this cat going with this? Like, cool. You know, he would talk about waking up in the middle of the night a lot. And he said, my mom, she would get up. I said, you all right? He said, no, go back to sleep. He's working on me right now. And my dad always said he knew when God wanted something from him. He said, because he felt like he was whipping it. And that's when he would come out with some of his greatest compositions. But he would wake up in the middle of the night and just start humming and singing and writing down lyrics. He would take drives. I mean, he took any opportunity. Sometimes he would just spend time at the park. He would drive to the park. There's a park here in Bloomington called Brandywine. He would go to the Brandywine Park. He would sit by the river and he would just let his thoughts flow. And he would come up with a composition. That's how he did it. And then when he was finished, or when he thought he was finished, especially when we all lived at home together, before we all went our separate ways, he would call everybody up. Come here. I got the song.
Choir rehearsal. Time to
Listen,
go right
let
now.
me tell you something. Anybody that knew about 611 North Harrison Street knew that at any moment we would be in there singing. Because he would call, I got this song. He would tell Tina, this part here. He would say, me, you do this. And Jay, he would lay it all out. And he'd keep running until we had it. And then sometimes that Sabbath, we would be standing up presenting this song, So that's how he did it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
how he did it. He had one song, many of you are familiar with it. I want to live so God can use me.
Yes, sir.
That became his staple. Like that
Powerful
was
piece.
his mantra. Like towards his end, he really, really that was his song. He embodied that. He always said he just wanted to live so that God could use him. And of course, at his homegoing, we sang that song because we
Mm-hmm.
knew that's what he lived. That he lived it. You know. Uh,
So I can only list a couple. So of course, God in the midst of us is mighty. That was that took the roof off the church. I'll say, but by the time I heard it, I'm thinking like mid to late '90s was the first time that I can recall
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
hearing that one. I don't know if it's the title of it, but we're on our way to Canaan land. It's another one that is that the correct title, Rich?
So let me tell you about that song. Okay, that belongs to an entire piece.
Yes, sir.
My dad did a piece called "The Exodus,"
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
sir.
and we presented that at a Passover in 1984, maybe before that. Before that, and it's an entire piece of work where it had some narration in between and songs that were to each part of the narration. It just told the story of Moses. So that song was the culminating piece of that entire work. And that just, we marched off the pulpit and went back to our seats on that particular piece. And that took off and it became a thing in Wilmington that the Sabbath before the Passover, or before we left to go to Passover, that was the last song before we sang Now Unto Him.
Mm. Yes, sir. To this day, most tabernacles do it. I'm saying in
Yeah.
2024.
So it
That's
is
most of us.
we're on our way is the title of that piece. But
Beautiful.
it goes to an entire work.
Lord have mercy. Lord,
Mm-hmm.
Lord have mercy. I just become aware of another one of his compositions, Moses rejoiced in the gift of his portion. Of course, that whole uh, uh, album that you all did in collaboration with the Washington D.C. Jerusalem Choir, just absolutely magnifique. But yes, just very interested just to hear just about his process and what you recall. So just kind of transitioning.
And
And
if I could just jump in for a little
go
bit,
ahead, Saint Lisa. Yes, ma'am.
speaking about Brother Rich speaking about recording. Of course, every Passover at Singers' Day, the different choirs, especially the bigger ones, but regardless of size, would present a new composition. And
Mm-hmm.
we all had our little recorders, and we would learn the songs when we got back home. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
very familiar with Moses rejoiced in the gift of his portion, because we learned it off of a tape. Philadelphia sang one year, Behold the Lord's Hand is Not Shortened by St. Muriel
Beautiful
Farrar
piece.
Locke.
Absolutely.
So each choir had and these are some beautiful songs,
Right.
and we let that tradition go around the 90s of each choir had to have a new song every year.
Mm-hmm.
So it kept people in the mindset of recording, and even if they only caught the chorus, like the song "Behold, I Come Quickly" was Brooklyn's jam one year,
Yeah.
which is
Come on
"And He
now.
showed me a pure
Pure,
river
pure
of
river
water."
of water. Yep.
Talk about it.
You would look
Right.
forward to, because they all had a hook at the end that we would march down from the pulpit to the
Yes.
choir, and
Yes.
that was the hook for that. The hook for "Have You Not Known" for
Yes, Lord.
so it we're missing it. We're missing it. But we had some great composers, of course, Brother Nate. But every year a choir would generally come up. Brother Zanesville, the seventh day is the Sabbath.
Brother Ernest,
Brother Ernest
Who
Brother Ernest
wouldn't
Griffin.
Griffin.
serve such a God? They were coming off the pulpit. Who
Yeah.
wouldn't serve
Come
such a
on
God as
now.
this?
Mm-hmm.
Got to bring that energy back and get that composing spirit back out. So I'm sorry, reminiscing.
Saint Lisa, you are on to something, and don't be surprised if that Singers' Day spirit takes hold again. We'll leave that there because it's time. It's time, and that was certainly an opportunity to showcase and kind of get this this new music out there. So yes, man, you're certainly in the spirit of, I think, where we're headed in the very, very near future. Very near future. So just a couple more minutes here. So Saint Leah, Saint Naomi, any thoughts about the composition piece? And we can also even talk about the arranging. I know Saint Leah, with your musical background, you may be coming at it, from because the other piece that I was interested in is just about, Brother Rich just talked about how Brother Nate used to carry around a tape recorder. And, now we're blessed to have these cell phones that we can kind of just hit record. And if a concept comes to you, you put it on your phone and things like that. So just what's been your experience with composition, arranging, anything? I know you've done a lot of arranging and instrumental type things. Just want to get your thoughts as well.
One thing I can say, I guess when it comes to composing vocal music versus instrumental, both processes are completely different. That's all I can say, because you're dealing with two different musical entities. A man-made instrument versus a gift from God. There's a big difference. When it comes to scoring, I guess the one similarity I can say is it's all spirit driven. Like, there are just some songs I'm in a certain space that they're just gonna sound better than the other arrangements that I've done. And I'm actually working on a song right now, and
yes, let's go.
it's just one verse. I was talking to Brother Blake.
It's no such thing as just one verse. It's a beautiful verse. Can't wait to hear it.
Thank you. But honestly, I'm inspired by everybody else hearing their processes when it comes to composing, but it's different for everybody. So Unfortunately, none of our processes will be the same. But for me, I guess it happens when I'm not thinking about anything. It happens at the most random times. I could be doing anything. I remember it first came to me, the melody came to me. I was in the middle of a conversation with my mom, and I just stopped talking. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm just like, "Hold on." And I needed to write things down. And I just pulled out my laptop. And before I was probably on my, I normally use my scoring software to actually make the music so I can hear it and it's not flat or anything like that. And I was on it for about an hour and a half. And before I realized it, I had an entire verse. And it's never really me that's doing it. I don't know where the spirit is coming from. Maybe this is just a part of me that I haven't seen yet, because I'm getting older and I'm still learning things about myself. Like, me being 18 now will be so much different from me when I'm 28. So there's still things that I'm trying to uncover. But right now, all I can say is you just have to be open to the spirit.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to whatever the Lord puts on your heart down the line. Absolutely. Saint Naomi, did you have anything for us? Any thoughts?
With composition, unfortunately, I don't have none on for myself.
Not yet.
But
not yet.
I know not yet, but eventually, I know later down the line, it'll hit me, and I'm pretty sure. Maybe not at that moment I'll understand, but once everything starts to unfold and I'll start to see, it'll make sense. But even like right now, depending on the situation, like compositions within our organization, like with this book, I could just be sitting here and all of a sudden a tune or maybe a lyric from a certain song will pop in my head, and I'm just like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with this? But eventually I'll just have to look at it and break it down for myself. Like, what does this mean to me? Or how is this going to help me further on, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's coming. It's coming, Saint Naomi. I have no doubt that I'm thanking the Lord in advance for the composition that He's going to give you and Saint Leah, and just the additional compositions that He's going to reveal to all of the panelists and to all of those that are watching right now. That's absolutely something that I'm looking forward to hearing and to seeing. So just very, very quickly, as we, I did want to just touch on a little bit about arrangements as well. And the one thing that I did want to kind of talk about just is, and this kind of goes back into our kind of where we were earlier, the music that we're given in our time can almost be seen as a time capsule for the times in which we live, right? So Rich, you talked about how, the Philadelphia choir maybe of years past, was more jazz based because that's what was going on in Philadelphia, right? You talked about how the Belleville was that Southern choral type music. You talked about Brooklyn and that New York, kind of that Broadway type thing, right? If I had a hammer, right? A hammer in the morning, hammer in the evening, all over this land, right?
Yes, sir.
But the compositions that we have now, that are revealed to us, are born out of the time in which we live, right? None of us live in right now, right? We don't live in 1930. We don't live in we live in 2024. And whether it's hip hop, R&B, whatever you want to call it, right? There are certain influences that come into, I mean, just because it's the nature of the times in which we live. Is that a bad thing? Is it atypical for the normal Cogasock sound? Perhaps, right? But again, the music that is born out of our experience is a time capsule of the times in which we live, right? So Elder Crawford's music is going to sound one way, but who knows if Elder Crawford lived in 2024, what his music would have sounded like if he was given something in 2024. So that's just something I always think about, right? When we talk about this is not a monument, this is a movement, right? So how is it that the music can also be developed, enhanced, to speak to the time in which we live? So I just kind of want to throw that out there a little bit, just kind of as we kind of talk about arrangement. I wanted to start with you, Jay, because you mentioned the song at our last session. You said that you put a Caribbean feel to "I Just Want to Thank You, Lord." So what was what was in your mindset there? Just give a little bit of your thought process there. What were you thinking?
Wow.
I'm listening to everything.
So, I know we remember the late great Saint Novella Nelson.
Yes, sir.
She did production for the Passover, and I think she was looking for a way to sing a certain song a certain way. So she said, I want like a reggae Caribbean feel to the song. And then I heard somebody sing, I don't know who was singing it. Somebody just busted out singing, I want to say thank you, Lord. And from her concept and me hearing that thing, and it just dun 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 thank you, just want to say thank you. So just from the concepts of it, that's where it came from. So and it's funny that you mentioned that. I was I grew up listening to like the 90s R&B.
Yeah.
I've heard some people call certain things like a certain beat that I do as the JC beat or something like that, and it's like a boom, ta, the boom, ta,
the JC bop.
The JC bop. That's what it's called. The JC bop, and that's something that I was used to hearing growing up. So that's something is kind of nostalgic in a sense. I go back to it. I hear that for church music, but I won't do it for church music. So, but I mean, a lot of times for my process of arranging, I sing a song over and over and over and over and over and over again, and then the ideas would come. Well, why don't you change up the rhythm right here, or why don't you pick up the tempo here, or something like that. I mean, it just is. It's more of a like, or why don't you put a phrase that's in the front, put it in the back, or why don't you take a tune, a melody from somewhere that you've heard, but change up the harmony. So that's how I do it. It's a little weird at times because sometimes the third verse might come before. Now this is more so for composing, but the third verse might come before the first verse, or stuff like that, or the end of the verse might come before the first verse.
Yes,
So
sir.
but it's all like a rough draft sometimes. You just throwing out, just having ideas, and then somehow make sense of it.
Yes, sir.
That's the only way I can. That's the only way I can explain it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I can say I have borne witness to many of Brother JC's arrangements, and they are chef's kiss, magnifique, beautiful. I mean, they're just wonderful. So, Saint Lisa, you have something on that?
Yeah, I was thinking, arranging allows us to use our creativity, but not so much in the service. But I grew up with concert choirs in Kagasai, and there was actually, the Philadelphia choir, of course, was notorious for taking a song that's on the radio, and even with the Brooklyn choir, we just came to say we love you. My father took that.
Yes, sir.
Changed the words, put all verses in it to have to do with us preparing for the concert. So at the end of every concert, we just sang because we love you.
Yes, sir.
So that's an arrangement, from an original song. So that shows the creativity. But even back, of course, when Elder Walker and my father were arranging for the Philadelphia choir, they would take songs, of course, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. It's the standard way you hear it, and then by the time Elder Walker finished with it, that arrangement is just a classical masterpiece. But those two in particular had ears to take secular music and put them to an a cappella style. Again, not on Sabbath day, but we sang all the time.
Yes.
We were preparing for concerts, so you had a chance to use all these other gifts that you have, but you would never see them strike a Battle Hymn of the Republic with the ark open. So again, Kagasak is versatile. Our music is versatile, and especially back in the day, we had the ability to change up. Sandy Lane Smith and that interview was awesome, but that showed the versatility of her time. But again, not during the service as much as after the service or later down the line. But I will mention at one time, I guess it was Elder Plummer or some others had said they don't want us singing our compositions during concerts. So we started composing more concert music or more ditties or good music. And my brother, the late brother Reginald Farrar, has a repertoire of songs that were just for concerts because we weren't singing our songs anymore. And that's where a still small voice came from. More not necessarily for the service, but for a concert theme, spiritual music. And again, love brother LeRoyal for being able to be creative and arrange, something that we've heard forever. It is good to be here. Change the beats, add a bop, and you got a whole new song. So, but we would use those creative gifts at other points. So a lot of our music, we can still be creative. We're not trying to squelch anyone's creativity, but as I think the theme has been, we can be versatile, but there's a time and a place for everything. But we've had some people do some wonderful things with music, and I think Elder Walker and Evangelist Farrar were the two to kind of start that off, and then other composers have come in behind them with really changing secular music in particular around for the benefit of Kagasak. Because once we Kagasak a song, it's done. Like I Come to the Garden Alone. If you ever listen to that song as it's scored, and you listen to us,
In the garden,
in the garden, it's totally different. So appreciate our gifts and our talents.
Absolutely. Bro, Jay, go ahead. Yes, sir.
I have one question and one comment. So, Saint Lisa, was it so I heard Have a Talk with God today, Stevie Wonder. So I'm assuming that is his song. But
Stevie Wonder's song, but Saint Muriel.
Saint Muriel
is the composer in our family. She really has the crown. But she would arrange different songs too for her group. the
Right.
YJBs, Young Jewish
Right.
and Black.
Come on
She
now.
had
Right.
she had Have a Talk with God. They
Man, that
they
was tough.
rearranged. She rearranged several songs. What's Roberta? Not Roberta Flack. Gladys Knight's song. No, it is Roberta Flack. What's the one that the girl Killing Me Softly? She did
Wow.
a secular arrangement to Killing Me Softly, and St. Corinna Sturtevant was the lead on that.
Come
So yeah,
on.
Hey,
she was
word.
It's going back in the archives.
That's
Wow.
The lyrics were stirring my soul with his feelings, shaping my life with his word.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was the
Wow.
same tune, and
Right.
St. Corinna was the lead. Yeah,
Wow.
this was in the YJBs. So yeah, St. Muriel definitely has the gift of
Oh.
arranging and composing. She's composed probably 100 songs as well.
Some beautiful pieces. Beautiful
So,
pieces.
Saint Lisa, you said something to the effect, um, knowing the difference between the ceremonial, um, Caucasus hymns versus the concert pieces. In your opinion, why is there a difference? If you're singing to the same God, if we're singing to inspire others, why the separation?
The purposes may be different. I see concert music or being really creative with some of our songs as more or less entertainment, spiritual entertainment. And in worship, this is just an off the cuff opinion, but in worship and also that integrity that we talked about and preserving the integrity of our music, when we start a song, continue it all the way through as it was composed. But if you're in a concert or at a certain point in the service where you can be more creative, it's probably just how I was trained more than any way being right or wrong. But there are certain points in the service I see as more to make sure it doesn't become too worldly, to make sure there's a difference between the secular and the holy, to make sure there's difference between the clean and unclean, but not coming straight off the club floor. That's what I don't like about a lot of gospel music today, coming straight from the club into the church, and it's the same beat, just with different words. So I think Kagasak's sacred music or hymns have a place, and they have a dear place for us too. But then there's a place to be really creative, to inspire that period, to entertain. That's why I miss the afternoon services. Even at the Passovers and stuff, we would cut up like crazy in the afternoons, but it was different than the morning devotionals, I would say. I think just being a little cognizant of the flavor or the purpose of the service, making sure it's God centered at one point and it's God centered with more creativity, at another point, and especially during the concert. It's for entertainment. We're not trying to convert anybody. We're trying to entertain and show off our gifts and skills. That's why we don't applaud after someone sings a solo or a good song. We don't stand up and clap because the applause it's not entertainment. All glory is to God.
That's
That's
I
interesting.
love
Thank you.
this so we are actually at a point now where we're going to bring this episode to a close. We had some great discussion, and probably we're going to pick this back up. Probably start here at our next session. But I really appreciate everyone's thoughts. I hope that you all listening out there and watching out there in the Zoom world or the YouTube world. I forgot to mention, like, share, subscribe, all those things. Put some comments in the chats. As you can see, there's so much for us to discuss, so much for us to just review and to share with each other. If you didn't hear anything else from this episode, that creative gene is alive and well. Let's get back to really showcasing that, understanding the time and place for these arrangements. And there is space and opportunity for everything. Sometimes we may not be able to cram it all into the worship ceremony, but I was reminded of two things. First thing with St. Lisa's comment, there is, or I'll put, is there, right? Is there a difference between religious music that also, kind of leans into the world of entertainment? Is there a difference between sacred music and the time and place for all those things? I was again bringing up Evangelist Farrar at one of our last rehearsals, and he was talking about when Sister Elder Priscilla Lawrence first introduced her composition "Have Mercy Upon Me," and she presented it. I believe it was at a Passover, and according to Evangelist Farrar, that first verse actually had the bass doing some bum bums, right? And I don't know exactly how it went, but have mer boom 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 boom, right? So when our former leader Rabbi A.C. Plummer kind of heard it initially, he instructed her to take out those bones, right? Because he said, let's sing those words all the way through. He didn't necessarily give a reason, or Evangelist didn't share a reason for that, but perhaps the reason that there was maybe the idea of the sacredness of the music and the time that song, because that song is now part of Yom Kippur service. It's one of our primary songs that you may hear during our worship ceremony. So maybe there was a particular reason that he instructed her to take that out. But another thing that I recall from our seventh leader, Rabbi J. August Crowdy Jr., and I think this was a conversation he had with a child, and I don't know if it was. I think I know the child. I don't want to get it wrong, but he asked this child about how we would be able to save, I don't know, save the world or save the congregation. He asked him, would it be through the spoken word or would it be through the music? And the child said it would be through the music, right? We would be able to save souls by way of the music. Now, there's a way that, our sacred music can be done during the worship ceremony, but that space and time when it comes time to take this music out to the world, there's a need for these arrangements out there to ultimately maybe put a hook in people that we can ultimately, draw them back and reel them in. Sometimes the music is the way that you're going to get in the door, right? It's going to be the way that you're going to, that sounds good. They may not be ready to be proselytized to, or they may not be ready to be taught doctrine or anything like that, but you keep putting this music out there, you keep allowing the time in these concerts and going out to maybe some of these facilities where our sick and shut in are, just the impact of our music, to the world. It's a way that we can maybe get the word out, spread the word, and save some souls. But there's a way to do that, and it's all needed. It's all there's a place for all of it, and I'm certainly thankful that the Lord has given us these opportunities. It's just a matter of us utilizing these opportunities to do what we need to do, as singers and certainly as conductors. So again, thank you all so much for spending a little time here in the Choristers Lounge. And when the time comes again, we hope that you join us again, because again, there's plenty of things to talk about. We just thank you for your time. And with that, we'll bring this session to a close. God bless and keep you is our prayer.
There's plenty of things to talk about, so sit down, so sit down, so sit